Whenever Hideki does that, he has failed to gain more than 1.5 in any event that has followed it since the 2017 Bridgestone and the 2017 PGA Championship.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. This is it. The final day before the Sony Open starts. We got the final bets. First round leaders included, the weather. We're going to talk some TGL and get all into the DraftKings breakdown for the first cut event of the year. Before we break it down with Tambo, the one and done is full. I want to thank everyone out there for contributing their $250, sharing everything around. I really do appreciate it. And we just filled a $1 million contest, Tambo. It was incredible.
Phenomenal. Amazing. Papa Tambo's in the mix again. We got him rolling. I'm in there. It's going to be fun. Have not had success at it yet, but that's what this show is good for. You know, get
Small
through
sample.
it.
Small sample
Small
size.
sample size. Exactly. You know me in the sample size. Exactly. So excited to get back into it, but incredible stuff. The price went up just a little bit, but everyone was still all for it. The $1,000 fill, just pretty much everything successful across the board.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I think we need to make the $1,000 larger because it filled 3 days in advance. And it was only 50 people and like $15K to first.
Next year, 100-person $1,000 tournament.
I think Rick is running one that's like similar to that.
Lofty.
Yeah.
Lofty goals, but it's good to go after it.
Yeah, and his starts in a few weeks if you want to go check that out. You know, Rick and I still pals, so I can support him where I can. As long as you support me first, then go support Rick. And support Tambo over at shippination.com. Code Mayo will help you out over there. And if you're looking for more strategy, dfsmastermind.com. You've been pumping out like a ton of content over there.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's up to 14 and a half hours now, including the course. It's going to work out to about 8 to 10 hours a month, right? So we brought it in-house. We got everything covered for you for strategy. And PGA DFS is back. So when people say, oh, if I could just watch you, what does building in sets look like? Well, now you can watch me show you what building in sets is and forming up like a PGA DFS boot camp. Going to get some special guests on there and build that out. And the community actually creates the content. So it's all strategy, all training content, but people are loving it.
I am so excited to have a cut event back.
Same.
Like last week, I mean, people shit on this entry, like myself included. And I think Vincenzi was the one who said it, was like, it's fine to have a preseason event where everyone goes out and just makes a ton of birdies the entire time. Don't have it be like a signature event. Like, don't bring all the best players to an event like that. Like, save it for a better location, time of year, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I actually like that. The take is good because the setup is, I'm okay with when people say the first part. Let's have an event. If they have it like this, almost like an all-star game, where they're just going out and let's go out, get after it. Let's do it. Sure. Let's start off, have a little fun, ease it in. Football's still ending out. It's busy times. But to put a signature event on it seems a little bit crazy. Congrats to Hideki. I mean, got the job done. But, Sung Jae shooting that. Morikawa, again, doing his, just same stuff. Craziness overall, but yeah, whatever. The event's over. It was a fun week. Had a few close calls, but
I invested like $75 on DraftKings into playing the center.
Probably smart.
I was like, this tournament is not for me. Like, I made my lineups. I went through the process, to get myself. It was like a warm up week for me too, of like how I want to start structuring lineups, start remembering everything, get the stats, especially of like the lower guys, back in my head, so I don't have to. I mean, that's a huge part of this, too. Like, maybe some people are better off coming into it fresh every single week, but I do like to make my notes on the players, especially at the bottom. You know what the big guys are doing.
Yeah.
But, like, how did JT Poston play? It's like, I don't know. It's like if you can start banking that to memory, you can kind of plan it out a little bit more. Like, I even had to go back and reference my notes from last year for the Sony and be like, oh, yeah, Taylor Montgomery is great in the first round here.
Yeah, you'll got more on that in a minute, I'm sure. But hey, people told me JT Poston's a big dog now. You just gave him small dog status. This could be the guy that comes out this week and gets the job done.
Yeah, exactly. Because to solidify his small dog status. Who were you talking to, like his brother or something like that? No, he's a real big player.
The posts, man. People like the postman.
Yeah, people like the postman because he's always like generally decent odds and super cheap.
Possibly. He's not super cheap this week on DraftKings, that's for sure. But
no, not here. So the one and done filled up, Fantasy Golf Championships.com. You can go create your custom leagues over there too and set whatever price you want. If you and your buddies want to play, you still have 24 hours to do that. And I think you can continue to do it throughout the year and just start it like next week at the American Express. If you want to like galvanize people to get going, or if they don't care until the Super Bowl, you can start it at Waste Management. I know Underdog is bringing back best ball drafts for, I believe it starts at Waste Management. So we're going to continue to do that. Code Mayo at Underdog to really help out this show. And trust me, at this point in time, it does really, really help. So yeah, if you haven't done that yet, code Mayo, and we're going to be running more best ball competitions, and we'll get a custom one rake free for Pat Mayo Experience listeners if enough people do use code Mayo to sign up. So if you've been on the fence, please go do that right now. Just put in like $10 or something like that. You'll get match 5 and
Let's get started on it. That's the key.
Yeah, just go play a pick'em entry. There's fun stuff in NFL. Oh, I did want to remind everyone I'm live on Friday. You are not here on Friday, but we got Raza for DraftKings picks and then some NCAA basketball bets. Ray Garvin is jumping on after that to talk NFL draft prospects. I always have him on every single year for the mock draft. That's going to be a great time. Then John Kelly is coming on at the end for UFC bets and underdog props and props in general for the UFC card this week. It's been a while. I mean, Dogger Pass hasn't run in a while. That's how I know that the UFC hasn't been going on, but it's been like 3 weeks or something.
It's back. It's good cards coming up when it does come back. I know that from my guy Title Marley over at Chip It Nation. It's going to be fun, so I'm excited for MMA to come back as well. It's a good watch.
The bets for the Sony Open. They are not finalized as of yet. I will be throwing out my newsletter later on, so please go sub to that on Substack, completely free. I'll also publish it as an article on Twitter. People have really responded to that well, picking up a ton of new followers. Game in the system here. Releasing the article on X as well, so you can find it at the PME. Over there, I'll pin it to the top of my profile. I'll have all the last-second information, some ownership updates, the final bets. It's more of a cheat sheet version of everything that's happened so far this week, but all of the strategy guides, the previews are all up there as well, just like they are in the newsletter. I had to cash out a Keegan Bradley bet and rebet it because it was beneficial for me to do it.
Yeah.
Keegan Bradley, 32-1 at Bet365 right now is what I bet. That was the lead pick, the first guy I looked at this week to go through it. Luke Clanton, I bet at Cool Bet at 45-1. Do not use Luke Clanton in the one and done. I cannot stress this enough. Whether he comes first or last, he earns the same amount of money. Zero. He is an amateur, but I am betting him to win this tournament. If he wins this tournament, he will be a professional as of next week. Trust me on that one. Bobby Mack at 48-1. That was using a 30% boost at 365. I think he was 37. Got him up to 48. I kind of circled the drains on him even when I did the Sony Open research show. Like, he just kept popping up for me over and over. And I thought he had a pretty good week last week at Century. It was a bit underrated how well he played. He lost 9 strokes putting. I mean, he'll do that.
Pretty good season last year, too. We talked a little pre-show on him, and
2
we'll
wins.
get into that when we get there, but I think that's interesting about Bobby Mack as well.
And then I bet 3 guys towards the back. I've already gone over David Lipsky, 275-1 with 8 places. He's now 150-1. I don't know if I'd bet the 150-1. The closer to 300-1 when I was doing, ran throughs, this guy should be higher. And then there was 2 other guys that I thought should be higher, too, and that's why I bet them. And I bet Nick Dunlap last week. Now I have larger odds to bet him in a weaker field, so I'm going back to the well. I bet him 110-1 with 8 places. And I bet Eric Cole, 100-1. Eric Cole with 5 places. You can get him as high as 125-1 if you don't want any of the each ways, the top 5s, anything like that, just outright winner. It's not even that I like Eric Cole, but if he comes T7 last week, he's 30-1 this week.
Probably. That's typically what it goes with Eric
But
Cole,
that's it's crazy how far he's dropped off on the odds board.
I think it's just, everybody's perspective on him was different. That's why, right? People thought it was a lot better than he was. It was kind of a run that he went on, and then.
But this is the sort of course he plays well.
It should be, but that's to say it still matters for what people have seen lately. I mean, he's down to 7,500 on DraftKings,
and no one's using him. He's a guy I'm going to be building around this week.
Yeah, we'll see. Spoiler alert on those Lipsky odds, regardless what you get them at, they all pay 0. But
no, this guy came T4 2 years ago. Would have paid huge on the 8 places.
The each way, that's right. I forgot. That's the benefit there.
He also has he has top 10s in 3 of his past 6 starts. So if you just make that top 10 like a T7, I'm getting paid.
Drop that off the end and just leave a 1 in front of it, you'll be good. Yeah,
we'll be good on that front. I also played him top 20 at 7-1. Or 7-1, 8-1, something crazy like that.
Definitely like that better.
Yeah, that's probably the better way to go about it. I mean, top 40 is probably the right play on him. First round leader, Chris Kirk. I played him 60-1 plus a top 5. Nick Taylor, 100-1 plus top 5. David Lipsky, 140-1 plus top 5. Right before the show, Paul shouted out on Bet365 for whatever reason, Keith Mitchell is 140-1 to be first round leader. I mean, we know he can't win tournaments, and he does seem to be a broken player since gagging away Sanderson Farms, but 140-1 for him, who's had a lot of success at Sony. Played him with the top 5 as well. And then Taylor Montgomery, who was second in the first round last year and the first round leader the year before, 200-1. plus the top 5 to be first round leader. I also played him top 20 at 70 to 1. At 7 to 1, sorry. 70 to 1 would be nice. Top 27 to 1 in the first round market as well. He's been really bad, but for whatever reason, like that's the one thing I think you can try to, like, especially at stickier courses that have similar fields. First round leader is really I think the place to play it. Now, is Hideki going to go out and shoot -9 and be first round leader? Probably. Something crazy like that and just wipe everything off the board. But I thought these guys were too deep for odds. Like, Kirk has been really good at this tournament over the course of his entire career. He was the only guy last year who finished inside the top 25 who lost strokes putting. He was second tee to green. I remember because I bet him.
I like the Kirk one. I like the Cole bet overall, like you said, the 100, like that's a good number. And then I like the Taylor Montgomery one for first round leader because that's where he's going to show up. If he's going to show up, we know what he can do with a putter. It has not been doing it lately, but when he does, that's when it kind of throws you off. You're like, oh yeah, I remember when he used to do that. So I like those three probably the best of everything you said.
So to put Eric Cole into a little bit of perspective of why I went with him, like I like Harry Hall. I bet Harry Hall last week. Harry Hall's 55 to 1. Eric Cole's 100 to 1. They're the same fucking guy.
Yeah. I think it's fine. And I also think, like you said, just if he's going to pop at a spot, this would probably be it. And usually this would be where people want to move on him. So I'm not sure really what his ownership is going to be just yet, but
I'd say it's probably single digits.
When we get there, but for the bet, I'm good with it for sure.
Yeah, like
it looks like under 10%. Yeah.
Like someone like Paul's sitting over there. Novak Nation is in full force. Like, why is Andrew Novak 80 to 1 and Eric Cole is 100 to 1?
Well, we'll find out.
Maybe so, but like, doesn't that seem
Resort
strange?
course? Remember, that's what it was.
Yeah, but that's Eric Cole's jam too.
Yeah, I'm good with the Cole call.
We'll see when he comes dead last. It'll be a lot of fun. Is there anyone that you bet? Like, I'm still circling around Siwoo. Siwoo's now down to 35.
No, and my foray will start at Waste Management. This is going to be...
Yeah, you're not...
I'm in the streets heavily. Like, I'm going to be playing a bunch this week. There's no good qualifiers yet, but from betting perspective, it's really tough. And off of Hideki win being the favorite, and then on top of it, like, we'll get there when we talk about it. It applies to DFS as well, but like the Bradleys, the Benny Ann's, the Bobby Macks, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, this is... They're all possible to win and good, or someone's going to come from way back in the pack. I just don't want to be the guy to try and guess it this week. So I'll probably tail you on those three that I said, though.
All right.
I like those 2 first-round leaders, and I like the Cole call.
And there is a benefit. This was in the article that I posted to begin the week. If DraftKings Showdown, all things being equal, you can game it a little bit. I believe if you start on hole 1 versus hole 10 this week, that you have an easier chance for a wraparound.
It's like 8, 9, 10.
Or easier.
And 9, 10, 11. Yeah, you get the streak at only 3 of the holes, but I'm saying like
number 1 is really difficult, so it's hard to get that wraparound birdie streak where it's easier with 8, 9, 10 or 7, 8, 9, that kind of thing. So
definitely a good call, and it'll come and play heavy during the showdown streets. I mean, that's just something you can do. That's a little bit of an extra edge to put it in your favor, so don't hate that.
Do you want me to tell you about Hideki and why you shouldn't play him this week?
I think you have a good stat.
Yeah, I mean, it's
real sample size, so I'll listen.
I'm looking for any justification possible to not play Hideki.
Right.
Just because I don't want to bet him at 9 to 1. I don't want to play him at $11,000 on DraftKings. So he gained a crazy amount of strokes putting last week. So I went back and looked throughout the course of his career that when he has one of those spike putting weeks and putts really well. So I actually capped it at, let's see here, it is 2 or more strokes gained putting in a tournament. Whenever Hideki does that, he has failed to gain more than 1.5 in any event that has followed it since the 2017 Bridgestone and the 2017 PGA Championship. It is possible, based on his game, that he could win this tournament with plus 1.5 strokes gained putting. Now, usually it's like -4 or something like that the week after one of his spike putting rounds, but it's far more unlikely in a tournament like this that you'd win with a stroke and a half game putting. You need to be in like that 3.5 and higher range. It feels to me.
Yeah, and also too, what was the other thing you were just saying? The strokes game putting. This surface, I think, has also been bad for him, and then also
he won here too, though. So
yeah, overall, again, that size. But what were you talking about before the pre-show? Oh yeah, the 150. That's gonna be like 150 events, right? Plus,
yeah,
I just did quick math on it. 20, 25 events per year, 7 years ish. Like that's a lot of events, so it's a real sample size on something like that. And then I said to you, yeah, but how often does Hideki even do that? And then you just said, like, he actually does do it enough where it's kind of something you could take something from. And the funny part is when we get to DFS, which is where you're looking to fade him and you're not betting him, obviously, but for DFS, it's so easy to fit him. that even though people might agree with you there and be like, oh, actually, that's interesting, there's still enough people, tons of people, that are going to land on Hideki here because it's just too easy to get to him.
And he might be fine, and he might win.
Probably will be, and
He's by far the best player in the field. I get that.
He
But
should finish top 20.
I'm looking for a reason to not bet him or play him, so I need to justify it in my mind, and this is what I'm using to justify it. Now, in full disclosure, there are a couple events in there that don't have strokes gain data, so maybe he did. But just in all measured tournaments, that's the way that it ended up working out. So just taking a look there. The weather for the week, it looks like there's going to be like sprinkling of rain very early on Thursday. It might even get pushed back into Wednesday evening. But the wind does look like it's up a bit more than we normally see at the Sony. Like the Sony doesn't generally have a lot of wind. And the last time there was bad weather and or wind was that Cam Smith year when he went at like -10 or -11. Like usually this is anywhere between -18 and -24 somewhere. You're going to have to make a ton of birdies, but 16-mile-per-hour winds pretty consistent, but it's not gusty. And I find that's usually a big thing. Like the wind can be, even if there's more wind, but it's consistently the same throughout the course of the day, I feel like it affects them less.
Yeah, we've seen a lot. This is another tournament which we obviously just every year and go through it all, but like the course history is actually sticky versus the other ones throughout the year. There's only like 5 that it actually matters. This is one. The other factor that seems pretty sticky is the setup of being in Hawaii and playing the week before. It actually hasn't mattered if you've done good the week before. It's mattered more that you played the week before and were there. So we'll see how that stuff plays out. But
last 2 winners did not play the Century. Grayson and Siwoo did not play. So that broke up like a 14-year streak.
Right. And so long term, we had a little bit more. And then, the other thing is just the weather to keep an eye on it. But like you said, it's nothing crazy this week that I've seen coming in.
Well, I mean, Friday
afternoon, a little.
Friday afternoon, 23-mile-per-hour winds. Saturday, 22-mile-per-hour winds. Like, it seems to be pretty windy the entire week. I think scoring will be down a little bit more. Like, if you wanted to bump up around the green, which is something that does not usually happen here, although it's one of the easiest scrambling courses on tour, that maybe it probably leans a bit more to the good short game players than it normally would, although you normally see those guys do well here anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say that's typically the setup, and I've even just looking at some of the guys like the Henleys, the Hidekis, all those guys, it's kind of set up good for them in that manner anyway.
It might be bad for Connors.
It might be bad for Corey Connors, and we'll talk about him. Birthday boy, birthday, January 6th, he had it this week. But I think, just going back to it, it's gonna come down to the weather being a factor for the cut, if anything. Right? Like it's not like it's super high winds and you're like like Saturday when you mentioned the weather, we'll get to that when we get to that. We want to get our guys through the cut first.
You want to get them to Saturday first.
We're back to a cut event, so we got to get them to Saturday first. That's where I was going with it. And I think that's kind of, do you see any impact there that would lead you to be like a PM AM or an AM, any split that way? That's what I'm always looking at. I'm not sure 23 is going to move the needle for me because these guys are going to find their way through it or they're good around the green. Still an easy enough course.
Yeah, as of right now, maybe this changes that's one nice thing about this being in Hawaii is that when I wake up on Thursday morning and take a look at the weather, it could be completely changed. So I'll put the wind tower link in the newsletter and the article. It's the Wailai Beach Park / Ahua.
Oh, well, what is it again?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I don't even want to try it.
Yeah.
Butcher it.
I'm bad at the random words that I don't know that I see. I'm missing.
You know the geography. Exactly.
Yeah, I know the geography perfectly. I can tell you exactly Oahu.
There you go.
There, it had to click in my head. I know exactly where it is on the island and how far it is from Honolulu. We're going to be good on that front. But, just the actual naming of it, the nomenclature is not great for me. But it does seem to be pretty consistent winds all day, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not messing with it too much right now. I'm always down with playing some PMAMs just because I like that anyway. But for this setup here, I'm not seeing the 23 doesn't sway me typically that much where I can at least play some of those guys and mix them in.
Well, I talked about filling up the one and done. So again, thank you all for that. Who are we taking in the one and done this week? I've already made my picks for my 3 entries in the one, and I didn't want to take the spots away from everyone, so I only took 3 this year. On the show, I used Keegan, Jeff used Henley, and Cust used Harris English. Why, I'm not sure, but he did. What do you think that we end up going with here? I'll edit one of these and call them the show team, and see how you can sell me on someone here. I had Siwoo in that spot right now.
I'm looking at Keegan, and I think you bet him.
And I used him as my main one and done.
Yeah, and then I was looking at Mav McNeely. One thing about each. Bradley, when are we using him?
That's what you need to look at.
No idea when I would ever save Keegan Bradley for, and is he going to do good here? I don't know, but I think he could, so I'll use him. Or McNeely, the thing about him is is he ever going to be as good as he is right now, he's finally sort of turned a corner and been solid. I know everyone's like flustered about his price being up to 9,200, but it's a course that I think we could see him show up at again. So 9,200 on DraftKings, and then play him in one and done. I like him for both. So he was the other guy on the one and done list for me.
All right, so I use Keegan in the other one. I'll use Keegan for our show team as well, and see how we can do in this. I mean, we were in first place through March at one point and did not cash that year, so that's always a lot of fun.
It was the ROM effect. Remember that 1 week Rom screwed us, and then it was like
that was the week we were in first place, and then Rom was the first round leader at Bay Hill too, and then he like tanked on the weekend.
The momentum went from there, nothing but down, down, down. So I like the Keegan call. I think that's an interesting one, and I just have nowhere else I plan on using him, and he may pick up some steam because of that, but who cares? Like, what else am I saving him for? I don't know.
Absolutely. So the two main points that I want to highlight, and I wrote this up in the newsletter, it's on X if you want to get some one and done strategy, is you don't want to not play. There's only 31 events in this. I mean, there's no reason to play the 200. There's no reason to play David Lipsky because you got a hunch. Like, you can only use 31 guys throughout the course of the year. Use the good players. Overall, that's going to work out. It's just how you end up distributing them throughout your time. Like, you want to save the very best players for majors and elevated events because those are worth the most money. This one's not worth a ton of money. So where are you going to use Siwoo? Where are you going to use Robert McIntyre? Where are you going to use Keegan Bradley? Where are you going to use Corey Connors? Maybe Valero? Like, would you use Hideki this week? No, you probably wouldn't. You'd probably save him for one of the players or something like that.
Yeah, Hideki also could just go off this year.
Sure.
Like, it could just be like, he wins 4 times or something, and you're like, oh, it's just this, not quite the Scottie effect. I wouldn't put him there, but I'm talking about like last year where if you didn't have Scottie win, you really messed up somehow one and done because he won so many events and so many big events that mattered for one and done that you needed him for one of those wins to be in the cash or have a mix in there. Like, pretty much everybody did.
I asked Jeff to guess on the show on Monday, like what the winner had in terms of wins last year in the one and done. Do you know what it was?
9?
5, because Scottie won so many times. You can only use him once.
Yeah, makes sense.
You had all the long shots, and you had Scottie just dominate the entire time. So it was a lot less of an overall total. I wouldn't expect that again. I want to talk about Scheffler for a second. So Cust has a hot take. It didn't make the show. We were talking about it. He thinks that we won't see Scottie before the Masters.
I actually don't think that's a bad take. I will say this for a Cust take, because the first thing that came out, remember, was like the AMEX thing, and everybody just auto-assumed that's like just their starting point. Like, just get him off the board. Until then, I don't think we see him at the AMEX. I don't know how far it runs, but I don't think...
He's already pulled out of the AMEX.
Or that's what it was, but that was the first piece of news that came out.
So the next time we would presumably see him would be at Pebble Beach at the very end of...
Right, which I could easily see him not show up to that.
It's a tough scene. I want, like, if he's not healthy, I want him in these fields so I can bet people at much better prices if he's around. And he's like, if he's not good and like he can barely play, like, get him in there.
But I don't think you're going to miss out on that because whenever he does show back up, you still have the whole season ahead of him. And I already had my take was it was on the show that we did with Degenerate 75 and Feinberg. You can check it out.
Yeah, people should. I posted that to the pod feed and Mayo Media Network. Sub to Mayo Media Network, by the way. Yeah. Me, you, Feinberg, and DGen it was a season preview of a bit of a different kind. It's over on the Ship It channel too.
Yeah.
But I want to throw it at you. I thought it was just a fun show.
It was fun. People loved it. I got a ton of good feedback on it because people said it wasn't the same old, like, just like when DFS shows have tiers, and it's like, eventually it's great, but so many people do it that there's only so much you can take in. We had the most punchable face was on there.
And it wasn't me. I didn't win.
No.
Because I wasn't eligible.
We weren't talking about DFS or any content creators, for that matter, fantasy sports content creators. But the take on there was, I don't think Scottie wins a major this year. I think the field's really strong. I mean, he's the best in the world, sure, but this thing, maybe it's not even because of this, just the setup of if this sets him back, it adds even more to that. But there's just so many other guys now that have been sort of circling. We could see someone like Ludwig, who everybody loves now after watching him last night.
My wife was into Ludwig on TGL.
I think it was Claire Rogers said the Gen Z Adam Scott, right?
Yeah, very much so. Like, it was it's so funny. Like, my wife does not watch golf with me or sports with me at all. But I was like, I got to watch this. I got to tune this on. I've been talking about it. If they paid for ad times on the show, I should check it out. And we tune it on. We turn it on. The first thing, and she's like, "Who is that?"
Wow. Jeez. Got crushed. I think it's she's probably part of the group, though, that's going to turn it on the first time and then never turn it on again.
So I want to talk about it a little bit more. I mean, a lot of it's an echo chamber because I follow so many golf people. And obviously people are... I wasn't paid to tweet about it, but they pay for sponsorship on the show. know.
Yeah.
Like, I tweeted about it because I wanted to tweet about it, and I wanted to give my honest feedback on it. Like, I liked it, but EPAT, I think, was the one who kind of said it the best, was the expectations were so goddamn low of how this would be that it was kind of shocking that it was functional and not the stupidest thing ever. There's, like, weirdly enough, I think it should be crazier.
It should be. It has to be crazier. It also does not have to be every Tuesday.
No, that's going to be the problem.
This is an event. Last night was an event, and that's why it went off. I think the smartest thing they did, I actually wasn't a fan at all, but that's me. I'm not a simulator guy. I'm not a super golf fan as much as the DFS and DFS golf and all that stuff. But my point would be, knowing a lot about these golfers and stuff, even though you got a little bit of their personalities and the fun stuff, the hammer and all of that, it's the smartest thing I think they did was not run Tiger out there to play, because you were already getting this event out of it on week 1. So what I don't want to hear, I'm not going to just shit on it completely, but what I don't want to hear is anyone come at me with these ratings after 2 weeks and say, look how good they literally set it up so that they couldn't mess up. It's going to crush last night. It did.
No Monday Night Football.
Week 2, exactly. And then week 2, they're going to have Tiger play. Everyone's going to watch it. I'm watching again. Tiger's on. I want to see Tiger. My dad wants to see Tiger. Other people want to see Tiger. It's going to happen. Let's see how it does after that. But I thought you were on this case too about the every week thing. Like, it doesn't need to be every week.
It doesn't need to be every week. So there's a couple spots where they missed. Like I said, I thought the technology was really cool. They should have shot tracer. Like, it was hard to... Like, I want to see, like, the launch angle of everything. Like, they showed a lot of, like, Ludwig's stats when he was hitting it. Smash factor. Like, if you like golf, that stuff would matter to you. And that's so much different than you would ever get at a PGA event. Like, making it as different from a PGA event, I think, is essential. The more video gamey it can be, it should be. So they should have that up on the screen after every shot, especially after every drive. We need to be able to see, like... Was it a draw? Like they're looking at it and we see it land, but I want to see like what the actual shot shapes are. Kenny pointed out the holes need to be crazier, where you need to make like trick shots or something like that in order to do it. Like, keep it fun, keep it light, and make it mean something. Like, it seemed like they cared to the point where they wanted to win, but didn't care enough to be like, this is life or death, which was the right vibe. I thought they got the vibe right for what this needs to be. It was too long. 2 hours is way too long.
Intermission.
The intermission killed it, because there was a snappiness to it. That was shot clock. We're seeing shot. So I think you could probably scrap the individual element of it. It was more fun when the three of them were walking up to the green together, talking about the read in a condensed amount of time, and then someone had to go hit the ball. Like, I thought that was the most compelling part. But I think the biggest thing that I kind of talked about the XFL when I did. So if people don't remember, when the XFL first came out, week 1's ratings for the XFL were giant.
Yeah.
It was less than half the next week, and then by like week 8, it was the lowest rated thing that ever appeared in broadcast TV at the time. Not so much they would take those ratings today, what they were 25 years ago in today's day and age, but they were that low back then. I could see a similar thing happening, but for the first time out, I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I'm the most winning person in the history of betting on TGL, because my Bay Area golf club is dominant, just like I said that they would be. So all of that stuff was great. I didn't need a cutaway to DJ Khaled. The intermission absolutely killed it.
His
absolutely
interview was so messed up.
And I get it. They need to fill time. You need to do an intermission to get the sponsors in it, but not everything needs to be a profit horse the minute it goes. Like, most businesses launch at a loss, right? Look at Liv.
Well, that's just the other thing, and I'm not a Liv lover.
They should have Liv on this. There should be a Liv team.
First of all, they should add Liv. You mentioned the olive branch thing, but obviously the PGA being involved makes it tough for now. We'll see. But the other angle of it is like, Liv, all these stupid ass team names and logos.
But they swapped it though. Like, the stupid team names should be for this one. Like, Liv has the team names that the TGL should have, and the TGL has some of the names that Liv should have.
Everything they give them shit. Oh, they pay, like, the Liv pays people to show up to their events, buys tickets, does this. Oh, there's paid seat runners. They put every influencer in the space out there. The timeline got really light for me last night, because everyone needs to have their certain spin and joke and laughable thing about this thing. Like, it was not that good.
See, I actually thought that the Twitter version of this was the most fun part.
Unbearable. I'll go opposite.
But you didn't like it. I thought it was great.
Painful.
The jokes were flying. And very
bad jokes, for that matter. Not good jokes. Bad jokes.
Listen, we're not all professional comedians.
Neither am I. I'm not trying to put it that way.
But it was a collective thing that people that I followed were all in on, and very rarely does that happen outside of like Sunday in football. Like the only time really, like Bryson at the U.S. Open with Rory is really the last time I remember people being like in on something that's happening
Something
in golf.
really important, something huge in the
Sure,
golf
but
world.
this was able to galvanize enough people's attention week one that you wouldn't have this in January with golf anyway.
Sure.
They should have been.
That's what people keep saying. Nice validation. Well, there's nothing else to watch on a Tuesday
But
anyway in the middle of January. Okay.
Wasn't that your thing?
Doesn't that makes it? That's why there might be people watching it right now.
You loved it?
I'm gonna be watching every week.
There you go.
Paul's in.
Probably helped that I won money thanks to that betting being UFC. Sorry, I don't have a microphone near me because I'm working on sports. UFC does something called Tuesday Night Contender Series. It's a gambling show. I say lean into the gambling.
Yes.
Because who's watching on a Tuesday? Degenerates. Like
That's where your original point, and thank you for Paul, because it is a polarizing event, the TGL. It's you're one way or the other way, and I just felt like that was the case last night. I don't know how many people were, interested because they got free tickets and got to go in all that part of the mix, and that's fair. That's good. They should do that for a launch. I'm not against that. That's marketing 101. I'm talking about how it became kind of almost created off of that. To your point, though, I really wish they leaned in when Kenny first said the darts thing.
No, that's my take.
Or maybe it's your take.
That's my take.
Either
should
way,
be
the
like
takes are
darts.
flying, like I said, but get them closer.
Get them closer.
I know that it's set up the way it is. I'm just saying, like, why does that matter? Because, like you said, get the drinks flowing, get things around the block, get it really tight in there, put the pressure on, and then let them gamble on it like crazy. That's what this show needs to be. And then put up those smash factors and the launch angles and the stuff that's insane that you're not going to get, and that's what separates it from the PGA Tour, to be like, this is nuts. You can watch this on Tuesdays. It's a crazy thing. Like, there might be some crazy knockouts on this series thing that are just different than these are polished, top-end championship fight, like the 5 rounds, etc. It's the same thing. This is the U.S. Open. This is TGL. They're quite different.
But I thought they did a good job of establishing, at least off the onset, that they've established that like there's no comparison to what this is to what happens on the PGA Tour.
Right.
And I think that's where because people were comparing it to Live, which is completely unfair. But one of the things that Live got wrong, or is still getting wrong, is that they've tried to be different, but it's still just regular golf.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing actually different about it than sort of a tweak on the format. When I tune into Live, it's no different than tuning into anything else. It's the same camera angles, but like my favorite thing that like what happened with the original XFL was they tried out so much new shit, and like we wouldn't, I don't know if we would have it or if it wouldn't have come along so easily, but the cam behind the quarterback that's on the zip line, that started in the XFL. The NFL looked at it, was like, it's a great idea. Let's take that. Like there are going to be elements of this that I think the PGA can take, and I really hope that they take the one thing that I said people really enjoyed, my wife included, who doesn't like golf. Like they're showing a lot of shots. Like this is moving.
Imagine.
Like this is like show shots at a decent pace.
Yes.
All of it. Like you can never implement a shot clock, I don't think, on the PGA Tour.
Everyone wants that one.
Even the players want it.
Yeah. The Live Golf showing more shots was the one thing that people said, like, let's
I agree.
get that rolling. That's the only thing. Again, it's not like Live is popular at all. Even if they get the Fox deal, I don't expect it to be something that everyone's just lining up to tune in, but they've got the Bryson effect going for them. Last night still missed that. I don't care what anybody says. You got to see more of their personalities. Which ones?
Xander.
Like, Xander, sure.
I
Agreed, yes. One guy that finally came through in the clutch versus the commercials that he used to do for certain sports books where it's like, this ad is really what I'm reading.
Yeah.
May as well just have said that. And it's horrible. But outside of him, we missed a lot of, and I think you had this take as well. It's like the olive branch, I think you called it, of get the Live stuff. And I know it's tough because of the situation.
But it's going to happen eventually. This would have been a good soft launch for something like that, and it would have garnered a bit more interest.
Imagine if Bryson was there last night.
Imagine if Phil, this missed Phil. Like, screw Bryson. Bryson would have been great for ratings, but Phil would have actually, like, he would be like, have Phil in the, we always talk about, like, the gambling broadcast. Phil would be the gambling broadcast.
That'd be
like,
perfect.
Phil, sponsored by Underdog. Here are the plays that you need, and I'm throwing down thousands on this.
Oh, man. You get a little maybe Barkley in there with them, too. Just guys that like to gamble and talk it up that have already been on other matches and golf shows and things like that. Like, I always said that for the matches. The same thing. It's all pre-created. Like, they have to, like, do this, and this. It's like, it's really easy. Just make it about this instead.
The problem with those matches, though, and why it works better in a setting like this, is guys actually have to, like, walk to their ball. And you
Takes
have to
forever.
And you have to fill 6
So
minutes
much
in between.
space.
You don't have to fill anything here. If you have something to say, you can say it, but we're on to the next shot. Like, that's the kind of good part about this.
Get it? Yeah.
But, like, I was in for an hour.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. Then I was like, Then I started
Intermission really
then I
killed
started
it.
then I started like looking at my phone and stopped paying attention so much. Then the intermission happened. I was like, I'm fucking out.
Yeah.
Like it was on in the background the rest of the time. And it was over too. Like, the Bay GC, the wagon, our Bay GC coming to win the TGL championship. When they're steamrolling everyone and they're by far the best team, it's not going to look great.
When you say we are, I'm Uncle Phil and you, and I'm out. I'm walking out on this.
Listen,
You can have
I
them.
don't know a single anyone who put a cent on TGL bet on the Bay.
Yeah, so
I
they
didn't
got
see
there.
one bet. I mean, you just bet against New York franchise. They're the New York Jets of the TGL.
Yeah.
They're probably cuss team.
I saw only about 105 of those jokes before I turned them all off.
Oh, you're no fun. You don't like fun.
I
You're not a
didn't.
fun guy.
I guess I'm not.
You're not.
Not a
Just-
fun
you
guy.
Gotta lean
What's
into
that
it.
from now? I'm a fun guy.
I don't know, but
Forget. Okay, go ahead. Sony Open. Back.
I was actually going to talk about Live because the Live schedule came out.
Oh, sure. We can add the next one.
There are fewer U.S. events, and they don't get there till like halfway through the year.
Cut off Nashville.
Yeah, which is crazy because that was like their best U.S. event.
The one I heard the most about. I think they did Boston too last year, right? That was good.
I don't remember.
I can't remember if it was last year when they did it, but Live Boston was supposedly really good. I heard a ton of good things about Live Nashville. Again, from an event perspective.
Yeah, like going to it was
Would
a lot.
people turn it on TV? No. Did people like going to the event? Yes.
And I've heard that from a lot of people who have gone to Live events that they're really fun.
I would have loved to be at the event last night. Do I love it from watching it on TV and think I'm going to tune in every week like Paul? Probably not. But it's just that's where I'm coming from on this. The event side of it, very strong in execution. Liv does a good job from what I've heard when people go in person. Miami was another one that people talked about was crazy. So yeah, go ahead. But I just think that's the interesting part.
Yeah, I think TGL every 2 weeks makes more sense, and in that 2 hour period, there should be 2 matches.
Once
Instead-
every month, 12,
Yeah,
12 times.
But then it's not like sustainable.
But whatever you get involved, that's what keeps it in the mix. Who can show up in a month that golf doesn't usually have any airtime and see if it works? I don't know. I just think every week is not required and it might hurt it. We'll see.
Yeah, and probably fewer teams. But with Live, what they really should have done is, like in retrospect, they should have just bought the DP World Tour and not cared about America.
They originally tried, and didn't they recently talk about? Wasn't there recent
Yeah, but
rumors
that's
around
just,
that as well?
that should have been like,
Yeah.
But they gave the PGA time to respond to DP and like work in better collaboration with them. They should have just went to the DP World Tour, talk to Keith Pelly, be like, here is $3 billion. We want your tour, and then make that the World Tour.
Yeah.
Not just like you still have it in Europe.
That would have been their
mostly.
shot, yeah,
That
for
that
out
would
of the gate.
That would have been such a better idea versus having these random events. Like even Jeff and I were talking about. It's like we're two people that will watch Live. Not everyone wants to watch Live. We will watch it if it's on. Like I don't know when stuff is happening.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Now
That's-
they've released a schedule and like I don't know.
They're for having all that money and some of these events made well and all that stuff. Their marketing side doesn't seem near. Their execution is not as strong, at least from what you just mentioned. Like, okay, like I should know that this is coming out, or I should know more about this, or more outlook on what's coming up. And you just don't seem to have that. But today you can find out that Brandon Grace was relegated or something.
No,
like
he got
or whatever.
He
the
got
opposite.
unrelegated
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah,
his team.
that's what it was, the
Which
opposite.
really hurts the competitive spirit of what they're trying to go for here.
Tom McGibbon, baby, he's gone.
Yeah, McKibben. Well, that was one of the jokes. I couldn't figure out a way to construct the joke for TGL last night, but Fitzpatrick was so bad. Outside of that one awesome chip where he played it off the backboard,
Yeah.
which was actually pretty cool. But he was so bad the entire time. I was like, I wonder if if these guys can go re-sign Tom McKibben, back off Live, and just replace him with Matthew Fitzpatrick and see if anyone would notice.
Probably not, but that actually was a good point. You just brought up one of the cooler parts of it was the backboard situation there, because it's like another side that you're just not going to get to see anywhere else. So maybe implement some more of that type of stuff.
The TGL, presented by SoFi, is golf's newest league. It's all indoors in an arena with high-tech meeting, high stakes meets prime time on ESPN. It's the 3-on-3 match play golf league that takes the competition of pro golf and places it inside the arena atmosphere. 6 teams featuring the PGA Tour's best players go head-to-head every single week, and we're talking players that get mic'd up, shot clocks, refs, never before seen holes, a moving green, the playoffs, the lights, the camera, all of the action all goes down, the first of its kind arena golf league in Florida. And yes, you can bet on the TGL, which is the greatest part about this entire thing. You can stream it live on ESPN. So, what you need to do is tune in Mondays and Tuesdays on ESPN in January, find out the right odds, get a feel for how this is going to work, and go win some money. Remember, it's only on ESPN and ESPN+. This is TGL presented by SoFi. Keep up is golf. Let's talk about the Sony Open. We've talked about it too long. We've talked about other stuff too long. It's time to actually try to win some money on DraftKings this week. For ownership, who do you think is going to be the highest owned player of the week?
I'm starting to wonder if it's going to be
Clanton?
I'm actually still starting to wonder if it's going to be Hideki. So one of the first broad things when you look at this slate is they did not bring back, at least for this one, because no Scheffler, maybe that's why, but there's no 5K range.
Yeah.
If you remember from last year.
I think you'll only see the 5K range in full field tournaments that also have most of the good players.
I agree, and I think that's possible, but what we realized last year and learned from that is that would cut into the 7K range. There was weeks where the 7K range had like 18 guys. Now it has 44 guys. The 8K range is the one that gets hit, and it's super small. It's only 10 guys. So it's very easy to fit Hideki no matter what you do in here. And like I said, I wonder if people just go spend the money. If not, it could end up being somebody like you talked about, but I don't see it being Clanton at 8,400.
I'd like for people to guess in the comment section, like, who do you think are going to be the 3 highest owned players on the DraftKings? Let's say either the $5, is it the $20 this week, or is it the...
It's $20.
$20? So in the $20, when Sky posts it on, I guess, Thursday afternoon this week, because lock isn't until, what, 1... Let's see here. I should probably know all these details.
Eastern or 1 Eastern?
It's 12:10 Eastern time.
There you go.
That's pretty good. So you can wake up and like fuck around with your lineups for a bit too, which is always nice.
You can build on Thursday morning.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I guess
I tried to do that.
yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons that I didn't enter that many contests last week or spend that much money on DraftKings because I woke up on Thursday morning and be like, all right, let's get some lineups in. Went and looked at it. Everything was full.
Gone. Reserve before, build and enter after. Yes, but definitely true. Golf has been popping off too, by the way. Like that's another nice thing. Golf DFS is definitely one of the growing sports that you're seeing it out there. Showdown contests staying strong or getting even bigger upcoming. We're just getting started for the year, and we're noticing it a ton over at Ship It, and just in general, you can see it in the contest lobby.
Yeah, so the two things you need to do if you do play Showdown this week, especially round 1, that's usually the only week, the only time I ever play Showdown, except for next week at American Express and then at Farmers. I won 2 GPPs last year on those Showdown contests because they're the most gameable.
There's huge edge this month in the Showdown versions of people not knowing about the course rotations, if there's weather involved, things like that, but I really like round 2. Most people like round 3. You just said you like round 1.
I like round 1. Like if I'm going to play it because I feel like it's really a dart throw. It's like playing the first round leader market.
Yeah,
and I can usually get guys around. Like I would play Montgomery on my teams. I'd play Chris Kirk. Like lock those 2 guys in and see what happens with the rest
just
of my
run
teams.
10, 20 lineups.
And you can run them on Fantasy National. Just click on DraftKings round 1, fantasynational.com/Mayo. Make it super easy on yourself. Then you can use the real time updated stats from overnight, and then you can pair them up with James's breakdown as well that he does for the Showdown contest and overnight, and just generate your lineups that way. It's super easy. That's how I won the 2 GPPs doing it. I regret not playing my guy Toasty when I won the smaller GPP, and I could have won the larger GPP.
He made it in this week too. He was the Monday Q.
He was the Monday Q.
Leader.
That's right.
4 guys got in obviously, but he was the leader of them.
And if you have Fantasy National to generate your lineups, look at the ownership, and do all your research, you also get the Fantasy National app as well, which many say is the best thing going.
Tracker. Many say.
Many are saying.
Saying.
It's mainly me, and Paul keeps winning money off of it, so maybe you can too, but you get the app for iPhone or Android. And it really is the best leaderboard app. Like if you actually follow golf, it's the only one that will show you in real time where guys are at on a course, all on one screen. So you don't have to click through 8 things to see where the guy's next shot is, which is infuriating. So who would be your pick for top 3?
I think it's going to be just at the top. Hideki, Corey, and Henley.
I think it's going to be Henley because he's the cheapest.
Henley's definitely getting steamed up. I'm
going to say it's Henley, Clanton, and I have a feeling McNeely is going to end up being 3rd.
I think McNeely's in that mix for sure. The problem is in the 7K range, there's going to be guys that are. It's almost like you have to price factor it in for ownership. We on player points, we always do points per dollar.
Yeah.
If you could do like an ownership per dollar of the bad side of it, like the negative values, someone like Novak Nation, if he gets steamed to like 16 or 17, he's not the highest owned on the slate.
But he's
the highest value player of the 7K range that gets steamed up, and that becomes somewhat of an issue when there's 43 other guys around him.
So if you're looking right now, who is projecting at like 15% or higher? And listen, guys can switch up. There's a few guys at like 13 that could end up at 17. You never know. Henley, Connors, Hideki are just going to be super owned. They're the 3 highest priced guys. They're easy to fit into any lineup. You can play 2 of them together if you wanted to. Clanton from the 8Ks. I think Ben Griffin from the 8Ks. He's another one. Why is Ben Griffin better than Eric Cole now?
I don't know. I think it will be actually
Eckroat, McNeely, Pendrith, and then from the 7Ks, I really think I'm not doing it. Everyone else I've seen is betting Burger this week. Everyone's all in on Burger.
Yeah, I don't think Berger's going to get there, but I think Davis Thompson was one I was going to mention. He's right there above Clanton. He's a guy that a lot of people are talking about just because what we've seen from him last year and the capabilities. But McNeely was a good call by you there. That was the other guy in the 9 case.
Yeah, and I think McNeely is going to suck up a lot of ownership from the guys around him. He's just going to dry it out because you can still fit McNeely in. Let's do that then. Let's try to fit in McNeely with 2 high guys. So let's say Connors, Henley, McNeely. It gives you 6,900. Do you think many people start that way?
No.
Or is that too expensive?
Too much.
So which one do you drop first, Connors or Henley?
Probably Connors.
All right, so we go Henley.
Only 2, just as I'll say, because we're going to get there in a second. But I do think people either go this route that we're about to go, or they pick one of Hideki, Connors. And then obviously there's enough people that it will be not the highest combo you'll see, but a lot of people will be able to get to Hideki, Connors, or Hideki, Henley, Connors, Henley, whatever that might be. But I think this start is kind of interesting for a balanced type build.
So I do have a take on who I think is the best play on DraftKings this week.
Who is it?
Sahith. No one's using him, and he's probably the second best player in this field.
Yeah, and he's right underneath McNeely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I will, and listen, this might not be a good course for him. Although, I think if the conditions get worse, it actually becomes a better course for him. He's the other one that I'm still circling around betting. Like, I bet him last week at 28-1 against good players. And now I'm not betting him against shitty players at better odds. Like, I should almost follow my own advice and go bet him. But I could see starting a lot of teams, not starting, but like using Keegan Thigala, Bobby Mack Thigala, Siwoo, McIntyre, Ben Ann, like that collection of guys I like more. I like Henley the best of the top guys, but I don't have a ton of interest in Hideki or Connors or Tom Kim.
Agreed on that. Connors definitely still fits in there, but I like Henley more than Connors.
Okay, so and I like those guys more than McNeely. I understand McNeely, but if he's going to be the one that everyone uses, I don't think he's significantly different than any of these guys at the same price point.
If you think he can play good, though, it's not who you play, it's how you play him, even with the steam.
Yeah.
You could start with McNeely and leave everybody else off. I think most people have McNeely in as their second guy.
McNeely, Thigala, Siwoo, or something like that.
Right. Exactly. That would be a way to do it because you're also going to end up more balanced. And then on top of it, the first way you mentioned, you're like, do you think a lot of people go? So we know they don't. It leaves you 6,900. It's not ideal, but when the $6,700 to $6,900 guys are basically more 7K guys that just couldn't fit in because some of those 7K guys could be 8K guys and down the board that way, just the way it sets up, I think that's what makes it a little bit more interesting with the way to use McNeely.
And I've had a lot of success at the Sony Open on DraftKings over the years. Even betting-wise, I've had a lot of success. So I hit 2 or 3 like long shot winners now when the favorites end up hitting, but that mid-range has been very good to me at a tournament like this. And I think that right now, as a part of the season, it's all about understanding like actual speculation on guys who are going to be good or who are potentially undervalued at this point. Like, to take a look down this list, like if you had to think about like quality of player in your mind, like I think that Thigala should be up like quality-wise. Like overall, I think Thigala is better than Keegan Bradley in terms of overall talent. I think he's better than Tom Kim too. He might be better than Corey Connors. Like he's better than Russell Henley, in my mind at least. Maybe people differ on that. But I think that he should be a part of that crew. And then you have this entire tier of guys after him that are from Keegan Bradley all the way down to, let's say, Brian Harmon. And I would probably bump up Seb Straka over Griffin and Harry Hall because I don't think they're a part of that tier. Straka has won enough on tour. I think he's also a great play this week. But Cam Davis, Billy Horschel, you would put those guys as like a tier of their own. Then you're into the Ben Griffins, Harry Halls, Eric Coles, Seamus Powers, some of the young guys you don't know as of yet. But they're like, although they range in price from 82 to 71, they're all kind of the same guy. Right. And then you get into the sixes, like there are guys down here that are good. There are guys down here that are bad. Like Jacob Bridgman is going to be very highly owned this week at $6,900. He's been awesome throughout the swing season. He puts the lights out. He basically top 20s every week, 5 of 6 top 20s during the swing season. But is he really that different than randomly scroll down than Carson Young or Chad Ramey or Chris Goddard? Like they're all in the same tier of players. And I feel like the pricing is more off at the beginning of the year than it is when it gets a bit more condensed because there are so many people in the 7K range.
I would add to that though. I think that people are going to really overthink ownership this week. And like, for example, like I don't think Bridgman gets any ownership this week to your point right there, because what you said is what you know. You know how good this stuff's been and how this other stuff. Maybe that adds a couple of points to people that don't know anything right now and are just tuning into the show because it's back now, so they add him in. But I don't see him getting any ownership. I see guys around him with way better betting odds and T20 odds and things that people look at. And so I will say, to your point there, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do it now. Somebody said he's going to be so highly owned. I got to go to someone else there. They just play your guys in these spots. There is so many guys in the, I think there's over 100 guys. What is it, from 7,900 down? And not that any of the 6K guys really matter, but 120 guys from 7,900 down. Like, just, they're going to be really spread out. And even a guy like Novak, if he does get super popular, because he looks like one that we could kind of entertain there, Denny McCarthy, Tom Hoagie, some of those guys that actually look, Chris Kirk, that they'll get it, they'll still be like 15%. 85% of the field won't have them, so you can still play them in different ways. What are you laughing at?
I did exactly what I thought I was going to do and did it anyway, and everything I did last year. I meant Joe Highsmith, not Jacob Bridgman, because Jacob
I was going to say that.
He's actually been, Jacob Bridgman had, 1, 2, 3 top 20s in 6 starts. And Joe Highsmith had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 6 starts. And he also had 2 top 10s in that mix
hilarious
as well.
because we just had this on the show.
They're the same
That was
guy.
the one that came up. We said, we were talking about Brendan Todd and Brendan Steele, how people always used to mess up, but that was a name thing.
No, Chris Stroud and Brian Stewart used to get mixed up all the time.
There's one, but the one that got posted in the chat and we populated up even up on the screen was that one. It's Joe Highsmith and Jacob Bridgman. So it's funny you said that. Chandler Phillips is another guy at 7,100 that pops. So do the guys like the older guys like Glover and Kuchar, Adam Svensson. That range is picking up steam, and you'll see why when you build out. But even like a Henley McNeely with who'd you mention before, Sahith, that puts you right in that range if you went that way.
All right, let's try that then. I think a lot of people will be wary of playing Sahith, and I completely understand it. I think that's what makes him such a good play.
So what do you think if we left Sahith out and saved him for like the GPP play of like if this is a cash start?
Okay, well, let's
Henley, McNeely, Novak.
Let's build a cash game lineup first, and then we'll work off that. So let's finish out and talk through the 6. McNeely, Henley. For me, I think it's either Siwoo or Poston. I think those guys are just like, if you want to say quote unquote, I know Siwoo's never safe. He plays this tournament well.
But I think people play Clanton and Novak first, and then you have 7,500.
Listen, as someone who's bet on Andrew Novak a lot, I don't quite understand why he's all of a sudden a great player.
I understand, but are we building what we think or what we want?
I mean, I think that we can build, like, if we can come to some sort of consensus on a cash game lineup, I'm okay with this top McNeely, Clanton, Henley. It's not how I would build, but I get that. I think we can come to that.
So let's put Clanton in because that one at least makes sense and then puts us at 7,500. Is there anybody else in the 8Ks that you think have merit to fit into this? Like, do you care about Sepp? Do you care about Davis Thompson, Eckroat? Any of those guys, or do you just think the same guys in the 7Ks are there? Like,
I think you'd be crazy not to play Chris Kirk in a cash game lineup.
Right, so that's a good call. So you put him in.
So now you're at 7,300 for 2 guys. Throw in Highsmith.
What does that get you to, though?
76, which would get you Denny McCarthy.
There you go. That lineup fits, and I think it'll be between, like I said, I think it'll be between Highsmith and Chandler Phillips.
Yeah.
Where people go there, and that's fine.
And for me, I think that Highsmith, I mean, if we just take a look at Chandler Phillips, who I do like, dude makes a ton of birdies. I think Frankie Cappen's in this field, too. Another guy who just makes a ton of birdies and is super cheap. Let's see, Chandler Phillips, he was 11th at the RSM, so that works. He was 20th in Mexico. He has some pretty good finishes. Like, he has top 15 equity. But just like overall, when you take a look at him versus Highsmith, if that's going to be your decision, Highsmith has just consistently performed better. Like on and that's what you're looking for in cash, right? You're just looking for the consistent guy.
We want that's what
he has upside too. Like they're kind of the same guy, but one guy misses the cut way more.
Right. So for the floor ceiling combination, made cut equity, all of those things that you're looking at, maybe even T20 odd stuff there where you're looking more for a cash lineup, this would fit. It's a 998 777 for your build out style, like 2 guys in the 9K, 1 in the 8 and 3 7Ks, and that gets you in there with Highsmith to round it out, and we have a starting point.
All right, there we go. So there's lineup number 1. We'll throw that in. Not a lineup. I mean, it probably works in a GPP too. It's golf. Like no one's going to emulate your lineup unless they're watching the show and playing along with us.
Right. The only thing I will say about that, because you're right, and it's not even against that. It's just more to mention is like when someone says, "Okay, well, I'm just going to flip it from Highsmith to Phillips then and take on the more risk."
You're playing a 1v1.
It's a 1v1. You're in the same roster construction that everybody else is kind of falling into because we can switch this around a million different ways. We can remove McCarthy and Highsmith and put in what happens if you put in like Glover, for example, who I know is getting a little bit of love there at 7,300.
Or you throw in Frankie Cappan at 66. Now you're back up to 81.
Oh, it's Novak. There's the other.
And you can have Harry Hall. You can go Cappan and Harry Hall if you want to.
Cappan and Hall?
Yeah. Is the 2v2 with those two.
Now that's where we get some leverage. How much is Cappan? 66?
66.
And then you like Hall?
I mean, he's just the guy with the most money. You could use Straka instead. I think Straka is very much in the same vein as Sahith, where I think he's a bit undervalued in this field. And where are the two places where Seb Straka has won in his career? John Deere Classic and PGA National. If you're good at those courses, you tend to be really good at this course eventually.
Yeah, I feel like Straka falls into that McNeely bucket where they both could get steamed up a little bit this afternoon. We'll see. But
Really?
I like them both. I do like them both. I'm just worried that that's what ends up happening.
I didn't see that with Straka. Ben Griffin is there, and I feel like he just really sucks up a lot of energy.
It's possible. That's why it's tough these weeks, but that's why I also say I wouldn't get too
Caught up in
the weeds of people always do this, right? We've talked about it a ton in this show. We're like, if he was 12%, I'd be in, but I think he's going to be at 15. Now I can't play him. It's like
I think when thinking about ownership in this context, I mean, as you said, you can just play them a different way and then it doesn't matter at all. Or you can be like, hey, listen, if I'm going to fade someone due to ownership, it's because the guy's like 25% and every single player around him in the 7K range is 3%. Right. I think that's an actual take.
For sure. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'll play the 13 guy who I have projected over the 17 guy. You get there and they could be completely flipped.
Yeah. That's what you're looking at. And that's, again, there's always different ways you can play it and ways to make it work. But that's something that I look at when I'm going through things. And I think you called it good there, so we can keep it going.
Ben Coles rates out really well for me at $6,400. Now that we're talking GPPs.
Yeah, I like him. So if you put someone like him in, you can do kind of whatever you want. But
I'm trying to find the guys down. I mean, Lipsky's 66. I don't mind playing Lipsky. Obviously, I bet him. Ben Silverman at 67, just wedges and putting. That's the type of guy that I like to be on. Sexy Roy is back. The Roy toy. Kevin Roy.
Kevin. Watched a lot of Home Alone over the break. I would say, I guess I was looking at some of the other guys a bit more up the board, but like we
haven't seen Kevin Roy since Valspar of last year. What the hell happened to Kevin Roy? Has he been playing on Corn Ferry? Was he hurt?
What about Joel Damon, 6,700?
Nah.
Brendan Todd, 6,700.
Nah.
I like both those guys.
Okay.
I like Silverman too, though, so I don't hate that call.
Just not really. Todd makes way more sense to me than Damon. What's Damon done?
I don't know. No, I mean,
I don't know. So Kevin Roy was playing on Corn Ferry, so he had the nice little run on the PGA Tour. He was 8th in Bermuda a year ago. Then he was 12th, and then he didn't get his card, so he wasn't able to play during the swing season. But he did play on Corn Ferry. The last time he played would have been week 40. What's that, October? So that was the Corn Ferry Tour Championship. He was 13th. In the playoffs the week before that, he was 7th. And then 2 weeks before that, he was 2nd. So, and the dude could score. I remember talking about him with you as this guy's at the bottom. He's pretty good.
Yeah. I think
now is the time to catch these guys.
I like playing them in Showdown and stuff, but I think for me, I don't even know if you need the 6K range this week. If I'm playing, these 6K range guys, I'm probably picking a handful so I can get enough of them. And then moving on. But let's say you put in Ben Coles and Roy.
Ooh, sexy Roy.
It's just an example because you at least have some confidence.
He's not your Roy toy. Roy toy.
That's a good one, actually. What would you do next? You like Harry Hall or you like something? You can get Sahith.
Let's see. Ben Coles and Kevin Roy. I mean, that's probably a bit aggressive. But now we have 9,200. I mean, I would build the perfect team that I like to build. I would go Bobby Mack, Thigala, Siwoo, and Keegan Bradley.
Let's see here.
4 9s and 2 6s.
Bobby Mack, Siwoo.
I get everyone from that tier that I described. I think Thigala is a tier 1 player, but even if you call him a tier 2 player, I have 4 tier 2 guys and then someone from the bottom, 2 guys from the bottom. I'm not messing around with that tier 3 of the mid to low 8s, the high 7s, the mid 7s. Just all those guys are the same. I'd rather have the overall talent here. And I don't think that someone like Bobby Mack or Siwoo or Bradley is all that dissimilar from Tom Kim, Russell Henley, or Corey Connors. Hideki is tier 1. He's the guy in this field. You might think that Corey Connors is great. He's very consistent. Maybe you can make a case for him as being the second best guy here. And the odds would tell you that he is. The pricing would tell you that he is. But do you really think that he's substantially better than Siwoo?
Right.
A guy who's won 5 times on tour?
So this lineup with Thigala, I know people will dock him for the win factor, but again, look how many times it's been that close and all these other things where you've seen him. So upside is there. But Bobby Mack, you talked about it. Some people think he's overpriced. Some think
I think he's underpriced.
Right, because of the wins.
But both of his wins have come on par 70s, at least last year. He won at Hamilton, then he won the Scottish Open, both par 70s. Dominates par 4 scoring. It still ranks inside the top 15 in this field over the past 36 rounds, 5 to 10 foot putting and 10 to 15 foot putting, and that is after dropping 9 strokes on the green last week.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say too, what was the setup here that you showed me? Just so you know, so Bobby Mack Siwoo, this is a great example for what we talked about earlier with the roster construction, is the exact same price in every lineup you're looking at if you've built already as Henley and Clanton. And when you do that, you switch the build so much. Like look at this right now. We have a 4 9s, no 10s, no 7s, no 8s, and drop to 2 6s. Versus when you put Henley in as the first guy and then have Clanton in there, well, you don't have a 7K range guy, you're a little bit different. You are on 2 really popular versions of Henley and Clanton. You didn't really switch the build. This has more risk to it for sure, but they almost project the same. And this is quite a different build when you're looking at something like single entry or a 3 max where you're willing to take this on if you wanted to, right?
So let's take a look back at some of the past leaderboards, just to try to get a sense of this, of why I like this sort of build when you start hearing the names that are like in the mix. So last year, obviously Grayson won. He's no longer with us. The rest of the leaderboard looks like Keegan, Ben Ann, Russell Henley, JT Poston, Griot, Pendrith, English, Eric Cole, Putnam, Taylor Montgomery, Harmon, Horschel, Kirk. It's all that type of guy.
Yeah, it's all across the board.
Like Hideki won in 2022, but after him it was Henley, Glover, Mitchell, Kuchar, Keegan, Connors, Kirk, Cam Davis, Ben Coles, Mav McNeely. Like outside of Hideki winning, and I went back and that's a part of the article now. I look at the historic odds of the winners and the guys that were chasing him. Like it's the 25 to 60 to 1 guys that just show up on the leaderboard here every year. It's very rarely Hideki at this tournament. It happened with him, and it happened with Justin Thomas in 2017 when he shot 59 in the opening round. Those are the 2 favorites that have won this tournament. Everyone else who wins is like 40 to 1 or 80 to 1.
And that makes sense for these balanced builds.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course. But that's why people can get there. And again, like I said, they dock certain guys. Like when did Thigala win at the
He won Napa.
Procore or something?
He won Napa not this year, the year before.
Yeah, 2020. It was the Fortinet.
It was the Fortinet then. It's the Procore now.
So that's all people give him, and then like, but they act like he sucks because of otherwise. You know, like I guess people don't act like he sucks. They know he has talent, and they like him as a person and a player.
They don't think he can close.
But they're thinking he can't close, so it may just dock it. Like here, I just don't see him getting much
Also, don't
ownership.
need him to close.
You don't. When you've packaged him in with McIntyre, Siwoo, Keegan, and your 6K guys just need to come through. Most people are happier to say, well, let me get the guy who won last week, Hideki. Let me get Connors. This, if not now, then when? His putting's finally on. All that until it's not. Like that's just golf. And yes, you'll play them in different ways, but I think a lot of those lineups end up pretty safe. This lineup has a lot of upside built in, and we're taking a chance on a couple 6K guys that if they get through the cut, they can score. Like over the weekend, they can put up enough points at those prices to really be valuable.
Unless the weather gets so bad that it's like overly detrimental, anyone that makes the weekend is going to put up a ton of birdies.
Yeah.
And the Eagles, because 9 and 18, like number 9 has a 6% eagle rate. Just think about the differentiation if you eagle that once over the weekend versus someone who doesn't make the cut. Like there's 8 points right there.
What would you do if you started with Thigala?
Let's try that.
And went really balanced to your point of that. Like definitely Siwoo, I think, can pop in right after him. We just kind of are fixing it up a little. But
like how balanced do you want to go with
Well,
this?
I want to see like some of these guys here. Like you like Harry Hall, you mentioned.
I don't love Billy Horschel, but I think that he's very much in play.
Right. So 7,900, you put him and we still...
So let's do this. Let's say Thigala is our most expensive guy. Let's make Chris Kirk our cheapest guy at 7,800.
So it gets you Thigala, Siwoo, then it drops you down to...
I was going to build from the bottom up here to see what we have left.
Well, you just land on it. It's Harry Hall, Sepp Straka, Billy Horschel, and Chris Kirk.
Because I think this is the lineup I'd want to play Clanton in. Because I bet Clanton to win. I like Clanton a lot this week. Again, do not use him in the one and done. Use him on DraftKings, bet him, do whatever. You put Clanton in here, you can have like Clanton, Straka. I like Cam Davis too. Cam Davis, then you get up to 88. You can have Pendrith or Eckroat. Well, you mentioned Davis Thompson, so let's throw Davis Thompson in. Take Cam Davis out. We're back up to 82.
Well, who do you have right now? I've got Thigala and Siwoo still. Do you?
I don't have Siwoo in.
That's why. So that's what changes it. I was putting him in. Okay.
So I have Thigala, Kirk, Clanton, Straka, Hall, Thompson.
I have Thigala, Clanton, Thompson. Oh, I went with Horschel still. You don't have him?
No, I took him out for Harry Hall.
All right. So let me go here. Hall, and then you landed on Chris Kirk.
Per the odds, this is the range of guys that win this tournament.
Yeah.
All 6 of these guys.
These lineups work, though.
I think these lineups work much better in a tournament like this. where you have one stud and a bunch of fake studs.
And whoever gets the steam here, someone will. It's probably Clanton out of all these guys. Let's say it's him. What does he get steamed to?
Yeah, who is he paired with?
He
that's
might
also
get steamed
coming?
to your highest owned at 18% or 15%, 15 to 18 range, and every other guy is super low owned versus that Kirk might get to 12, 15. But you have a build that not many have because they mostly have somebody McNeely and above between all of those guys in there. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this lineup for a tournament like this week.
So I went through a couple of the 6K guys that I like just to throw out some more from the bottom, guys that I have highlighted so far. I have Ben Coles, who I mentioned. I don't know if I'll get to Taylor Montgomery in full, the full way
I'll play
through.
him in a few, like get a handful of them. Like, 'cause he'd be one of the guys that would fit into the range because it's going to be boom bust. And if he has the good first round, so I like the first round leader bet when you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
Then whether he carries it on or not, probably not. But does he make the cut? Probably yes. And then he's 6,400 to find value. What if he gets another spike putting round on Saturday or Sunday? That'd be a valuable play.
So one thing that I thought was really interesting when you take a look at who was really good during the swing season, and everyone wants to play Daniel Berger. He was second at the RSM. We were betting him all swing season long. A guy that I bet all swing season long who also didn't get there is JJ Spawn, who just continues to play really good.
Yeah, I like
And
JJ.
he
I always
said-
like JJ Spawn.
Like, he's been bad at this tournament. He's missed 4 or 5 cuts, but he was 12th in 2023. His ball striking has been so good. Just bring up the putter once and get to the weekend. You're fine at 73. The other one was our guy, McClure Meisner.
Oh, he's back.
Now that Pearson Cootie is off the tour, we have McClure Meisner. Dude loves birdies, man.
These guys are awesome though. Like 7,100
Yeah.
for Meisner, 7,200 for Spawn. Where's my guy Jaeger at? He used to be in the 9 and 10K range. What is he priced at this week?
So Jaeger is 74. So basically the argument you're about to make for Steven Jaeger is the one I made for Eric Cole.
And is basically, even though no one confuses them, but I sometimes do just think they're similar, is JJ Spawn and Steven Jaeger.
Okay.
They're both like the type of guy that can just go out and pop out. I think about
You have the California kid and the German.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just think like when you put those three in, you have 9,400 left. And I like your Eric Cole argument. Not that we need him in this, but just to say if he was another guy you throw in, you now have money for, you're 100. You can play Tom, Kim, and Hideki.
Oh, so let's build out one of these. So Jaeger,
insane.
Cole, who did you throw in Meisner?
Yeah.
Mark Messier?
Yeah.
So Mark Messier, we'll throw him in there. Who was the other one?
I put Spawn, Jaeger, Cole, Meisner.
And you could probably play, Spawn, I believe, is the same price as Chandler Phillips. If you wanted to go to him, yeah, you can go Hideki and Tom Kim.
Just an example, yeah.
That's,
Or you can leave
it's a
the
pretty
money
that's a
and
pretty good lineup.
like Hideki, Keegan can get you from Cole up to Kirk if you wanted even. If you liked a different way to play Kirk. I mean, are people putting it in with Spawn?
Are people playing Kirk?
I think so.
Like a lot, or just like he's in the same run of the mill? Like, is there any one guy from that low 8, high 7 range that's like, oh, everyone seems to be clicking that guy's name rather than
It feels like
the
him.
exact same guys around him?
Yeah, it definitely feels like him. And I like the Cam Davis
I like Cam Davis.
spot here, but maybe Cam Davis gets to see. That's why I say it's so hard to tell. But I'm not going to try and do that game where it's like where you think Davis is 4 and you think Kirk, this is what you should be doing. I'm playing the game, but like it's hard to on this week when you say, okay, is Cam Davis going to be 4 and Kirk's going to be 12? And then they both just come in at 8, or does one of them get steamed up? Like I'll be, looking at that stuff tonight. But I think in general, I'm not going to let it bother me right now. And there's good teams in that range that you can build with even both of them. So I'm fine with it.
So I got Moose to fix all the RSM stats from ShotLink just were coming in completely wrong.
Okay.
Just like what do we do? So Moose actually went in and reprocessed them, like put like the manual touch on them, so it's updated the power rankings with the real stats from the RSM. It's not big changes, just there's a few guys that pop up and a few guys who don't. Past 36 rounds, like I put the model inside when I did the research show so people could know. Clanton's like by far number 1. Then it's Spawn number 2. Connors, Hideki, Gim at 73, Glover at 73, Kuchar at 72, Keniyama at 86, Henley, Pendrith, Ben Griffin, Tom Kim, Harry Hall, 4chan Kim, Seamus Power, Morpheus, Patrick Fishburne, then Davis Thompson, Mac Meisner, Keith Mitchell. Like, there's a lot of Kevin Roy, Eric Cole. There's a lot of guys down there. But it's funny because you just said Steven Jaeger. Like that guy was like 9,300 at tournaments. I said it's very similar to the thing that I said about Eric Cole. He's the same price as Andrew Novak. Like, wouldn't you rather play Steven Jaeger?
I would. You know me.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. But we'll see. But it's because I think if you look at like top 20 odds on stuff and things like that, people will see it, and that's where he pops up. So
Sure, but like when I think, and maybe I have the misconception of Andrew Novak, a guy that I like. I like him when he is like, hey, should I play Carson Young or Andrew Novak? Not Steve PGA Tour winner Steven Yeager or Andrew Novak.
Listen to this team that you just got me to.
Okay.
And then you can make a decision on the last one. But if you play Corey Connors, Keegan Bradley, you can get Clanton, Spawn, Yeager, and then your choice of Glover or Kuchar. Which, by the way, who do you prefer out of those two? Glover or Kuchar? Not that neither of us really love Connors, but I do prefer him up top if I'm not playing Henley. But just to do a Bradley version of it, like that's why I did it.
I would rather do Glover.
Yeah.
I'm a Glover lover over Kuchar. And
Glover lover.
I mean, Kuchar's won me a lot of money at this event in the past. So, he's done his service to me. I just think Glover's tee to green is just so much better right now than inconsistent. I mean, you have to pick your poison. Like, Kuchar's far more likely to make his putts. Glover's far more likely.
What guy shows up exactly from that perspective.
And I would rather bank on the better tee to green and a guy who does. I mean, his Glover's putting has been better. Like
they both pop, by the way, in the stats you just brought up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
they both.
It's tough to.
They both come up really well. But to take a look at like the overall, like when I'm looking at their stat profiles, especially from this length of time, like what do they do well? What don't they do well? I mean, Kuchar's putting is kind of like similar to Glover's in a weird way. Like Kuchar's better from in close, worse than farther away. Glover's better from farther away, better from in close. I mean, overall they're pretty good. Luke's over that time frame. Like Gim is best in approach, Spawn is second, and Glover is third. And if it comes down to like who's going to pin seek, I think it's going to be Glover over Kuchar.
Oh man, this is crazy too. Then now that you said that, this is another lineup version of it. With you go both of them. I went with Glover and Kuchar.
Okay.
You keep Spawn and Yeager in, and it lands you on Hideki, Henley, double H.
Hideki, Henley, Spawn, and who was the last one?
We kept Spawn and Yeager, our two guys.
Okay.
And then we went the two guys. You know, we always do this, so I went to it. Where people are like, well, the answer was both. You guys are battling about who it might be versus or talking about it. This ends up being that it's both. If you play all those four guys in the low sevens, they can't all be owned. Like, even if Kuchar or Glover gets a little steam, sure, but do Spawn and Yeager get any? Maybe not. And that's another one that can get you now Hideki and Henley. Double up there.
So I'm going to 3v3 you on this. I'm going to turn Yeager into Cole because I like him better.
Okay.
I'm going to play Dunlap.
Over.
I'm taking out our argument. Either play one, the other, both, or none. I'm taking out Glover and Kuchar.
So you go Dunlap and Cole instead, and it lands you on.
You can have a dealer's choice here between four guys that I actually all like.
Oh, gosh.
And even like Rio Hisatune makes sense. I'm not playing him, but I get why people want to play him. But you can have one of Nick Taylor, Courses for Horses. This is one of his jams. And he's a guy who can win from this range. Chandler Phillips, Mac Meisner, or Joe Highsmith. One of those four guys. I
feel like they all could work, but I would lean into Phillips or Highsmith just based on some of the other guys in the lineup that we have where it feels like, for Spawn, Cole, Dunlap. I mean, Dunlap's Rookie of the Year. Cole, you made a great case for. Spawn, we just talked about enough. But when you've got good stuff with Matsuyama Henley baked in, I think you can get away with either on Phillips or Highsmith. But we talked earlier why you don't have to go outside the box further on this beyond, obviously, Nick Taylor would make sense.
Yeah. This is the reason why I think that Henley ends up being the highest owned.
He fits every build.
Right here. So we enter him in this one. Let's just take Hideki out of this and look how much better on paper you make your lineup. If you feel good about Henley.
Oh, wow. It actually fits your exact. If you take out our debate we just had on the $7,100 guy,
yeah,
it fits in Sahith and Sibu.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So take out Highsmith and Spawn?
Yeah. No, I took out Hideki.
Yeah.
And Highsmith because we don't have to pick between the $7,100 guy, and it lands you perfectly on a Henley, Sahith, Sibu lineup. Another different way to play Henley versus if you're playing him.
Yeah.
First what I said, I know you were probably trying to take him out, but my point being you could still.
Yeah, I just with this, like, honestly, this is why I'm playing this version of this lineup over the Hideki version. I just prefer this.
Okay. Also, listen to this version. You do
same style.
Keep Dunlap, Spawn, and Cole. You still got them?
Yeah.
And you're able to fit Keegan, Bobby Mack, Sahith.
Okay.
Like that's back to your point of how many people are playing 3 9s and 3 7s. Even though people are landing in those in that 7K range with their Connors and Hideki and duplicate line or lineups sharing that combo, how many people are having Bobby Mack, Keegan, and Sahith? Those are all potential guys.
And you know
there.
what? I can just. This is one where I can work in Mac Meisner instead of Highsmith or Spawn or whoever it might be. I can just have one of those guys.
Yeah, and if you take out Spawn and Dunlap and go back to our guy Jaeger, it lands you back on Kuchar. So, guys that we've all talked about and ways to build it, but that builds it out. I kept Cole in.
So of all the one that I wanted to build that we haven't done yet, let's see if I can find it here. I had it up first. I had Henley Clanton as one of them. Let's do Connor. Do we do a Connor Sadecki?
Not yet.
Okay, let's do that and to finish it off because I know that people will want to build these lineups. Although I do think that you frequently see Hideki paired more with Henley and Connor's paired more with. That's why Henley ends up the highest owned because fewer people are going to do this and they're going to go take out one of the two and put Henley in instead.
You can just land on like Highsmith, Phillips, Kuchar,
Yeah.
Glover. So it's like that's the
But
setup.
let's try to figure it a different way. Let's put Frankie Kappen in.
Yes.
And now we can get back up to that middle range if we want to. And who was someone else? We don't have to go like Kappen and Roy.
Well, I guess
we can take a look at another. Let me just.
do we want to be able to get Clanton in a different way than everyone, or do you want to get a different 8K guy in? Because the way to flip this build is to get an 8K guy into it. Most people that are running these two land in the 7s.
All right, let's use Lipsky and Kappen.
Oh, that'll really boost us up, I think.
Yeah, I think that gets us to Clanton. If we want him, then we're back down to that lower 7s for the last guy.
Cooch.
Is it actually Cooch?
Yeah.
It's 72.
It can be anybody, but I'm just saying for this example, it's...
I mean, I like Spawn better than Cooch, and I think I like those 7,100 guys more than those guys in a weird way.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you can do whatever you want. That's the whole point
I'll
here.
throw
That's
in
the
Nick
benefit.
Taylor into this one, just because I'm mixing those four guys through lineups.
So let's see. Nick Taylor's how much?
How much is Gim? 73? Michael Kim is 73 too. I'm playing some Michael Kim. Oh yeah, I'm betting Michael Kim. And Michael Kim told me that if he wins a tournament, he'll fly me to any tournament that I want.
Deal.
I told him. I give him the handshake on it. The virtual handshake.
+1?
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll have the whole Michael Kim crew.
Yeah.
I told him I wouldn't break his bank, that we'll go to like Colonial or something. Go to Dallas.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
fair.
you don't need to get me into Augusta, Mike. I appreciate it, but fly me over to the Open, please.
Did you? Oh, man, we got to see. But yeah, this is good. This is a good thing to see. We're back. Golf is back. We got it set up. I think this build we just did here is just an example of another different way to get Clanton in and still play some of your guys. Like you like Kappen, you like Lipsky.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
kind of the
if
point.
I'm taking my shots, that's who I want to take the shots on.
I just like it from that perspective. Golf is so subjective where it's like, oh, you don't know anything like this guy. You didn't look at the models. You didn't do this and that. And it's not what it's really about. It's more of like just if you're moving in this direction and this is going to be your stand, play enough of them to make it make sense with Kappen and Lipsky. Like you talked about, don't just play them in one lineup and move on.
All right. That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Back to golf.
Love it.
Like, maybe it's because it's so fresh and we've been talking for 4.5 straight months about football. Just something about this time of year talking about golf gets me genuinely excited.
I love the combo pack. Obviously, you do a ton of different sports and add it all in. And at Ship It Nation, we cover different sports. But for me, it's like golf and football. I've always liked it that way. Even 5-6 years ago, working full-time job. It's like one is this time of year, one is this time of year. I love that flip. It's not that you're over the other one or you're not excited about it or not quite into it. It's just that you do get the flip of one switch on, one switch off, and it feels good, and you get just as passionate and excited about your next love or your next sport that you're into.
Yeah, by the time we get to the John Deere Classic, the passion will probably be gone
Yes.
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's 6 months from now.
We got lots of time before then. So this is on. We're back. It's fun. It's going to be awesome.
Are you guys doing? I know that James has his emergency stream on
Tonight.
Ship It Wednesday evening. If people want to tune into that, Byron did his stream on Mayo Media Network last night, where he talks through a lot of the modeling. Byron just went out on his own. So
Saw that.
if you guys want to support Byron, go to that show. I think his Patreon link is down there. I encouraged him to maybe stake out on his own. I think it's a good move. I mean, you're someone who staked out on your own. I think it was a good move for you.
Certainly was, and you've helped me with that. That's what I love, and that's why, when you're out on your own, that's what I was telling. And I talked to Byron as well. It's like you can do kind of your own thing, and you don't have to follow the steps of everybody. Obviously, there's lots of things that you can imitate and take and work with and collaborate and do all those things, and that's the fun of it. But you don't have to sort of lean on expecting this or following these rules. You can sort of trailblaze your own way.
Yeah, at the Model Maniac, if you're looking for that. He said he's going to try to build a one and done tool as well.
He built it. He sent it to me right before.
Oh,
we
did
hopped
he?
on
I didn't
here, and
see
he's
that he
sending
got-
it out today. He said so many people inquired that there's no way he's DMing it to everybody.
Yeah.
He's just going to post the link for everybody to check it out.
See,
See what he's all about.
I mean, this is why he should have talked to me. He should have charged for that. And that way he can get his Patreon going.
He's starting the free first. There's nothing wrong
Yeah,
with that.
just get a little bit of a taste in there. So subscribe to the Mayo Media newsletter. I'll send that out later. Maybe I'll include the link to the one and done in that if it is a free product. Even if it's not, I can send you the Patreon link to it for it. ShipItNation.com, DFSMastermind.com. Use code Mayo. And Fantasy National, of course. I'm doing my walkthroughs on it every single Sunday where you can see where I'm looking at for a lot of the stats. And it's the easiest way to go build your lineup. So I highly suggest you do that. Get 20% off and get the leaderboard included as a member at Fantasy National when you go to fantasynational.com/Mayo. Code Mayo at Underdog as well to help us out and really unlock that rake-free contest, which who doesn't love a rake-free contest, right? You used to love the DraftKings one. You'll love the Best Ball Underdog one if you use code Mayo right now. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
That Mayo experience! Experience!